Hey y'all, how you doing? This is Web3 Weekly Live.
Hello.
Not sure where that happened. I'm getting better at this.
I
I
could
keep
see
telling people
some,
this must break.
yeah, I could see some type of animation.
I know. Well, it's because now I realize that my music didn't go long enough, but that's okay. Thank you y'all for joining
Thanks.
on this experiment. So
Yeah,
as,
yeah.
as
Thanks
y'all
for
know,
having me.
thank you. As y'all know, Web3 is still very, very new and in its experimental phase. And so I feel like this relatively new vlogcast is also in its experimental phase. And we appreciate y'all joining us along for the ride.
Yeah.
And with us today is, now I'm going to use the word Genty. I'm going to use the name Genty, but I know maybe y'all might be confused because I use his real name, which is Frédéric. So you notice how I said it with the French accent, Frédéric. So,
Frédéric. Yes,
and is it Samvura? Because I don't want to mess up your last name.
that is right.
Okay.
Samvura. Yeah.
Okay, Samvura. So I studied French, y'all, so I can do
Yes.
the guttural R's. But
Yes.
anyway, so I'm going to, we are here today to talk about what I call block tech, FinTech in Africa.
Perfect.
And and we've talked about before on this show. We've talked about decentralized finance, and you guys are saying maybe we're always questioning again, what's Web3? And then what the heck is decentralized finance? So Web3 is powered by blockchain and cryptocurrency technologies.
Right.
And with that, I tried to come up with a way of, I guess this helps. So DeFi, decentralized finance, is basically blockchain-based fintech, right? So this and what it is it's challenging the centralized fintech, centralized finance, and it empowers people to have peer-to-peer exchanges. And that's why we're here talking to Frédéric
Samvura.
Genty.
Yes. Thanks.
That's not usually so hard for me to say, so I don't know
Yeah.
what to say. I'll tell you. And he is the founder of Ekival, and Ekival is a dApp, which we have talked about before, which is a decentralized application, basically an application run on blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing revolutionary things like peer-to-peer exchanges. So, Genty, tell us about your interest into the blockchain industry, and then after that, you're going to tell us more about Ekival because we want to hear that.
Nice, thanks, yeah. So we are, as you mentioned, the founders. We have more members of the team since we founded Ekival. Now we're like 5 people involved in Ekival. And in my personal experience, joining the blockchain is back in January last year. So I was helping my daughter learn some coding on code.org. And there's this coding with blocks, Blockly. And that one looked like something similar on Malawi, which was being developed on Cardano. So that's why I picked up the interest of Cardano among all the blockchains I could have looked at. I had already heard about blockchain since 2017, Bitcoin mostly, but I was so busy that I just didn't pick it up. So I was like a bit lost. But in last year, I think I had more time on my hands, I would say, due to the pandemic.
I was going to say pandemic.
What am I doing? Like, let me look at blockchain. Yeah, so that was the time I was ready to actually learn. I think many of us kind of joined by that time, right? So, and it's when I looked at the Blockly, it looked not only intuitive, but I could see it's something which kids could learn. And I got my interest that Cardano is actually looking into something easy for people to understand. And I looked at it and found it makes sense. And then I heard about the focus on Africa. I heard about the focus on banking the unbanked. And so Cardano kind of clicked, and I looked at it as a way to basically pursue my own interest.
Okay, so it sounds like you are a developer, which a lot of people here that have been on Web3 Weekly Live have not been developers. And we always state, you don't have to be a developer to be in this space, but it's really cool to finally be talking to an actual developer in this space.
Yeah.
And I guess when you are developing an app, we've talked about that before, where there are are so many different blockchains. It sounds like you've chosen Cardano.
And Ergo.
Oh, and Ergo. Oh, what?
Yes,
Hey,
yes.
you're bringing me into this because I didn't know this. Talk to me about Ergo because I know nothing about Ergo.
Yes. We'll talk about it. I will say, as a developer, first of all, being a developer on the blockchain is quite different. In my case, I had experience developing on statistical packages, R, SAS, all the SQL requests. I kind of knew about programming, and and also JavaScript. I had built some little websites and CSS, all those stuff. And then when I looked at the blockchain, it was different because Cardano used another language, it's functional programming, Haskell. I happened to have a library close by which had a book, Haskell, recommended. Actually, the book was recommended by Cardano. I found it. I read through it. It seemed the first hard, but then Haskell became easier as I went reading the book. It's very intuitive. It's very functional. It's basically declaring and using functions. You build functions and you know what are the expected outputs. So it was a plus for me to learn having a book. And then Cardano itself offered training for developers or people who want to learn. It's the Plutus Pioneer Program. I was in the second cohort. There were the first one, the second, and then there had been a third. I also joined the third one just to kind of brush up a few of my questions and knowledge. And as a developer within Cardano, I learned how to program smart contracts.
Wow, that's
Smart
pretty
contracts
crazy.
on Cardano. And after having learned it, I'm also starting to teach. I learned it in English, but I have most of my interests are in the DRC in Congo, where we speak French, hence the Frédéric. So we got to teach students in French. And so far, I have 6 students learning Plutus. And we started with the whole Haskell. They had a textbook in French. We printed it. I gave them a timeline as to where they have to be within a certain time. It's around 250 pages they had to read. There's more than that, but that's the minimum they had to read. And then after they had read that, then they were ready to look into smart contracts. And I would say they're kind of coming along well. Yeah.
Right. So here's the thing that I'm going to throw out, which I thought was really interesting because, by the way, I'm obsessed with French. I'm terrible at it, even though I've been like studying it for years because I never have anybody to talk to. I like it's very frustrating for me. Okay, especially because I'm trying to teach my little one French, and I'm literally like, "Where's my community?" Okay, and I have like this weird problem too because I like unlike other people, I actually connect. How do you say this? I connect French to francophone countries and hearing about like the idea that there's this barrier, like let's just say not only there a barrier to understanding, let's say, technology, and then on top of that having to deal with this like language barrier because everything is written in like English. Like I never even thought about that. I'm going to tell you that. That's crazy. But like I also want to say that here's my interest in, so I'm a little bit, y'all, I have to tell you, I'm a little bit obsessed. I met Genty through so Cardano has this whole like funding mechanism and it has this whole world. And I'm sure that y'all who have tuned in have heard me. Yeah, exactly. Have heard me talk about this Project Catalyst. And it was really cool because they have this Africa town hall. And I was like, I guess we call ourselves Pan-Africanists. So I'm like that. So I'm like, wait, what's happening? Africa? I got to go. I got to be in this. I got to see what's up. And that's how I met Genty. And I was just like, I don't know. How can I help? I don't know what I can do. And I tried to speak my little bad French. And then he just switched to English, was like, girl, let me help you out. And I was like, okay, well, I was trying.
You did well. And
I was trying.
Cardano, that's, as you said, there's Project Catalyst itself for funding, but also many communities, many town halls where you can join whichever community you feel more close with. And also, my case, volunteers. Like when we met managing the town halls, everybody is a volunteer. You join the first day, the second day, you may be the admin,
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's so beautiful about it is the ability to connect to community. And what I see is the promise of blockchain and blockchain technologies is, for me as a Pan-Africanist, is like really serving as an underlying technology to connect Africans across that diaspora, which is for me why, again, I'm back to like my obsession with learning about Ekival, and
Yeah.
also we'll talk about it a little bit later, Goma Stakepool.
Stakepool, yeah.
And that's another important thing that we talked about, hinted at in terms of DeFi. So let's pull it all together. And again, that's why, going back to this topic,
The blockchain
blockchain
FinTech.
15 in Africa. And like,
Yeah.
let's learn more about what is happening with DeFi, what the promise is of DeFi in Africa, and what this means for maybe Pan-Africanists and people outside of Africa.
Perfect. So I'll start with first the blockchain itself. The blockchain is a permissionless. It's also kind of transparent. So those two criteria make it favorable for Africa. In the case of Africa, we are very much at the step of benefiting from a new revolution, because we are facing issues that are common to many African countries. Like, for example, inflation in terms of currency. Bitcoin itself was created to solve the issue of money printing, which may lead to inflation in the worst cases. Usually, the more money you print, the less valuable your currency becomes. So in Africa, we have such cases where members of the government or the government themselves or leaders have access to monetary policy to basically benefit from it. They make it as a tool of management itself. So in Africa, in many countries, inflation is a big issue. And there is also the issue of transparency. In many developing countries, public funds are not managed in a transparent way. We hear about corruption, we hear about thieves stealing funds from the government coffers, and that lack of transparency, it may be willingly done by actors, or it may be a result of limited infrastructure. You just don't have the means to track every single coin, even if you may not have stolen it, but it just got lost because of the issue of no traceability. The same way we can see a developed nations such as the US going into Afghanistan and being unable to track all the expenditures they're having in that country because the infrastructure is just not there. Like once you're in a location, you may be well-minded, but you may face limitations as to how good you can track your expenditures. So blockchain solves the issue, and at the level of the Pan-African implementation of the blockchain, I'm also some type of Pan-Africanist, maybe of the worst kind, because I do believe that ultimately African borders were meant to limit trade in Africa. Like, I do not actually believe in borders in Africa. I always tell people, like, these borders are quite very recent. Like, nobody even knows why they were there. Like, you don't need to consider them as limitations. You may go to work in Kenya. I'm from the DRC, but if you have a project in Ghana and you need help in Ghana, I will just come. Like, I've been crossing borders sometimes even I just cross borders without any passport, just to show for the case of having no need of a passport. I'll get in trouble, like I've been in trouble in Tanzania and in Kenya, where I had been put in jail. But you know what? Those borders just are there to keep people imprisoned by the political powers that themselves do not deliver. We have seen in Africa and the African Union, they have talked about a single currency, a single passport. Those are words just to keep people kind of feel united. But at the end of the day, no single leader wants to share power. They always want to keep you in their little borders. They have to have control over you. And that's where the blockchain, for the people who do not understand it or do not feel like it, the blockchain is actually, by its nature, by its very construction, is an opposition to the political type of nation states. The blockchain is borderless. So when a currency is issued by a nation state, it's a political entity. The blockchain is also another currency. So when I hear people say, like, we have to accept regulations by nations, I sometimes feel like maybe they don't understand what is a nation. A nation, the political individual who lead nations, cannot allow any challenging currency to exist because they control the currency, and controlling the currency gives them power. So Ekival, in our case, we looked into border, and we are looking into how to make borderless or cross-border money transfers. That's where Ekival was born. Why? Because when you are sending money across borders, they're also charging you some type of fees. It's called a spread. They're converting, for example, US to Canadian, US to Kenyan shillings, US to Ugandan shillings, to Congolese francs. And through that conversion, any intermediary can charge you a hidden fee. they are not going to give you the market rate. If it's 1.2 US to Canadian, they may charge you 1.6, so they get that is already almost 6%, right? Around 5%. And nobody actually realizes that. And many applications are now benefiting more from the spread than on the transfer fees. They may even give you zero transfer fee, but the conversion rate gives them the enough charges for them to make a profit. So Ekival is a P2P money transfer, peer-to-peer, which means borderless, but also Ekival leverages the notion that money is always available in whichever country. So, and in internal borders exchanges, like when you want to send money within the country itself, it is cheap. It is sometimes even free. Like in Canada, it is free most of the cases. It is also speedy. It can happen right away, like if it's you're registered for money transfer. Possibly in the US and Europe is the case. In Africa as well, mobile money is quite fast and it's almost cheap. It's like usually less than a percentage, like 1%. So basically, Ekival now joins the two. Money is exchanged in two different locations in their own choices. Currently, we are favoring mobile money transfers to avoid issues such as counterfeit of bills and other dangers of money transfer. And in the countries where it's easy to exchange funds, we're also using cryptocurrency as another side. So it's crypto to mobile money integration for money transfer.
Okay, so I'm in the US. Could I use
Yes.
Ekival?
You can, you could. We haven't started. I'll go why we haven't started in Ekival Cardano is because in Cardano there is the notion of stablecoin which is not yet implemented. A stablecoin will mean the equivalent of US dollars on the blockchain, of the euro on the blockchain, of the Ghana cedi on the blockchain, and the Nigerian naira on the blockchain. That will be a stablecoin. Currently, if you were to use, first of all, I give what are the steps of Ekival. Any P2P network is a provider-led type of exchange. Someone has to offer something. Even when you go and P2P buying currencies, somebody has to first be available to offer you that currency you want to buy, okay? So in the case of Ekival, somebody has to be able to give you mobile money equivalent in one country. Let's say you want to send money in the DRC. You first have to get somebody in the DRC who is willing to give that equivalent amount. So that person will be the first one to issue the smart contract. They will say like, we have 500 in the DRC, we are ready to hand it out. And now in the US, you can lock that 100, the 500 through the smart contract. And then once you have deposited the equivalent amount, you can have somebody in the DRC send it to your beneficiaries by mobile money, and you can send the equivalent of crypto to the person basically who accepted to hand out that cash.
Okay, I got what you're saying. So I have US dollars. I'm trying to get Congolese, was it francs? What'd you say?
Yes.
Okay, I'm assuming because it's French. Okay, so so I'm trying to get my francs to somebody in the Congo.
Yes.
And I sit here and I get my dollars. I would put them, let's say,
Crypto.
in crypto.
USDT.
So let's say ADA.
Yeah, ADA.
USDT or ADA.
ADA, let's say, goes on Cardano.
Right. Okay. So I would transfer it to ADA or exchange it for ADA, send it to the Congo who takes the ADA.
Yeah.
And then that person, like you said, who I guess is part of that smart contract, then delivers it.
Yes, when you send it
in
francs. So when you lock that smart contract, you deposit the equivalent of ADA. You have not yet sent the ADA to the person who is going to hand out that liquidity. Once you have locked the smart contract and you have deposited the amount, now it's their turn to do the third step, which is basically them or their workers, in this case, like my accountant, may send the mobile money equivalency to your beneficiary in the Congo. And then once that confirmation, the API of the mobile money will validate the transaction. And then once that validated, the smart contract signs the transaction based on the API confirmation from the mobile money, the amount and the secret code you have to send. We can track the transaction. And then once that is tracked and confirmed, the smart contract releases the equivalent of crypto to the person who handed out that cash, that equivalent of francs.
I like it.
Yeah. The issue is that by using ADA, you are exposing yourself to a very varying rate, right? What you put in ADA today of $800 or $100 may be different tomorrow, even within a second, right?
It could be $200.
It can be $200.
$1,500. Who
Yes, or
knows?
it can be enough or not enough to confirm your transaction. So that's why
Got
we
you.
had been waiting for a stable coin, because then if it's 100, it's going to say 100 equivalence.
Yes.
But because the stable coin is delaying, as soon as yesterday, we were just wondering whether we should just launch using ADA, but then ask people to deposit a larger amount of ADA, and the smart contract is only going to release the corresponding valuation of that amount.
Yeah,
and
like
that can still
to
work.
hedge, essentially. Like
Yeah,
you give them a
basically
hedging amount just to make sure it
to
covers.
make sure it covers the conversion rate. No, if we put in like more than 10% additional funds, that may work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I think so. Again, just to kind of, I guess, redefine stablecoin, which I probably should have put in my little. I like my little things, right?
Yes, they do work. Yeah, they look
See
nice.
that?
Yeah, Ekival.com. Yeah.
Okay, but anyway, so the reason why I say that is I like to reiterate sort of what I'm going to call like terms of the industry jargon, whatever. Stablecoin is like the equivalent of whatever the money it represents.
Yes.
So if you
In
have
the real world.
In the real world. So if you have a stable coin, which is a cryptocurrency, but it's a stable coin tethered to the dollar, that stable coin, if you have one stable coin, it will equal $1. If you have a stable coin that's pegged to the euro, that stable coin will equal €1. One stable coin will equal €1. So it's a 1-to-1 ratio.
Yes.
And that is what Jinty's talking about when he says, like, we're waiting for a stable coin because it's going to be a 1-to-1 ratio. You know what you're getting, as opposed to right now, being that cryptocurrencies are like stock.
Yeah,
they're constantly changing. The value is constantly changing. So let's say I sent you 5 ADA today, but the value is constantly changing.
Yeah.
My 5 ADA might actually be worth, let's say, $5 today, but then maybe tomorrow it's worth $1. Like you just don't know. And so that's why he's saying to sort of really let people know what it is that they're actually signing up for. They wanted a stable coin, but now they're just like, hey, we gotta get rolling on this.
We gotta get rolling, and that's where Ergo comes in. Ergo is another blockchain which, unlike Cardano, has stable coins, and we are looking into implementing both of the two smart contracts on Ergo and Cardano. We had been given that I had taken the Plutus Pioneer program, and I'm already a Plutus Pioneer developer. It was easy on Cardano. However, I'm now learning on Ergo. I'm now a student back on Ergo to try and recreate the equivalent smart contract on Ergo. It may take longer, but at least I know I'll be having a stable coin. Already I'm playing with the stable coin on Ergo, and it may come sooner than later. Yeah.
Jinty, you're kind of a nerd, and that's really cute. I'm just gonna throw that out there. And because I'm the same way, and I love the fact, by the way, that you talked about a library, because that's how I've been learning about blockchain and everything. I went to my local library, people.
Local library. But you know what? Currently, people may not use the libraries as much as we do. YouTube is here. Your show is here. So they may take shortcuts.
I guess, but I'm a nerd. I have to do all of the above. I gotta like YouTube, but I need like books like to like lay things out for me. So anyway, so let's get into what we haven't talked about, because I was so focused on Ekival and really the ability for the promise of DeFi to help cut out middlemen, which is what decentralization really is the power of, right? Like cutting out middlemen, and especially banks which have only misused their power in terms of, or shut people out, especially people of color out. And so how DeFi really is sort of like the promise of banking the unbanked, and bringing bringing financial services to people who normally would not have financial services. And so I was really excited to talk about Ekival, but I would also like to talk about Goma Stakepool, because especially when we talk about DeFi, or I should say, like I said, I'm going to bring this back to, for me, which is like, how do we, no, let me bring it back. A lot of people are into crypto because they want to invest, right? Like they want to have access to investments. And a lot of people are, a little bit wary about what crypto is, and then where
Mhm.
to put in their investments, and
Yeah.
what is this decentralized finance. And so for me, again, another thing that I was exposed to in getting involved with Cardano and getting involved with just the Africa Town Hall was learning about Goma Stakepool.
Mhm.
And can you tell us a little bit more about what a stake pool is?
Perfect. So on the Cardano network, we have any blockchain will need validators. Validators are basically the computers that build transactions and increase the blockchain. So a block will come in, be validated, and be built. It's a transaction, or many transactions within the block. Many transactions in many cases. So the validator is the computer which basically creates new block. Having a stake pool allows you to basically be a teller at a bank. Let's say you get the funds and you kind of update the ledger. You can say, I got your $500, I'm going to credit your account, and on your statement you'll see that now you have $500 more, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the stake pool in Cardano is such an instrument that allows the update of the ledger. And why Goma Stake Pool is because as an African, I wanted to have something physical to represent the blockchain in Africa. So if you look at a map in Africa currently on the Cardano relays, there were few relays, there were few physical connections on the Cardano network in Africa. We put in Goma DRC is right in the center of Africa. And that stake pool, what it does, it allows the Cardano network to kind of reach Congo because we call it, right? Basically, it is a physical representation of the blockchain, and it allows us to validate transactions. And for an African, why is it important to have a validator in Africa? We have Cardano coming up with it's called Bebo fees. Bebo fees means you are not asked to pay your value in ADA. Let's say all the ADA has been acquired by some individual. All the ADA is owned by somebody, right? And you don't have any ADA, but you still want to use the blockchain. And in the case you are using some local currency you like in our case, we have the Congolese franc, let's say. Let's say there's a stable coin we use in Congo, which is called the Congolese franc. It's on the blockchain, it's a stable coin. And you want to buy some goods. For the validator to validate your local transaction or your transaction in Africa, you may need to pay ADA. What if you do not have ADA, but you still want to use Cardano in the future? Let's say everybody has or taken all the ADA. A local validator who knows the value of your franc or your currency can accept to validate your transaction and pay the fees on your behalf.
Oh, that's really
That's what
interesting.
the Bebo fees will be. So basically, you as a user, you won't realize that you paid in ADA ultimately because you gave the equivalent amount is appreciated by the validator. The validator kind of lends you the
Oh, that's
ADA
very
in your
interesting.
transaction, but in your case, in your wallet, when you're passing the transaction, you paid in your francs. So that is very handy because ultimately the end user will not know which currency they're paying transactions fees with. And some of those users don't even know that they're on the Cardano blockchain. If they have an account, let's say they're in a bank, which is on a blockchain, when they want to transfer funds, they're not going to be asked to go to and pay some ADA. They didn't even know they were on the ADA network, right? So they will pay in their local currencies, and if validators are allowing those transactions, it's going to be seamless in their eyes. They won't even know that they are using any network, and that is what I like for the Bebo fees, and that's why I'm actually favoring Cardano because of that function.
Well, I think also, like, going back to the idea of investments,
Yeah.
and like that. And by the way, I can disclaim I am not invested yet. Yet.
In Cardano.
Yet.
Yes.
Um, but so what I find really interesting is that, like, if I have ADA,
Yeah.
which is again the currency, the cryptocurrency of the Cardano blockchain,
Mm-hmm.
and I can stake my money, which basically means like hold my ADA money,
Mm-hmm.
with Goma Stakepool. So
Yeah.
now, what does that mean when I stake it with you, like you said? So that now gives you, like, in a sense, a power with the bank. If I give my money to the bank, it allows them to lend it out. Is it kind of like the same thing where if I stake my ADA with, Goma Stakepool, that you then have the power to like lend it out? Is that
No,
sort of how it
no, it's
works?
not the same. Basically, the stake pool what it does when you lend us lenders,
Okay.
when you delegate it to us, when you basically join us or support us, you give us more power to pass transactions, to mint those blocks. However, the analogy you make of a bank is also true in the case that when you delegate to the stake pool, the managers of the stake pool may be like your investment advisor in the sense, even though we don't offer financial advice, we kind of know what is happening on the blockchain. We can tell you which project is the best or upcoming, or which project is new on Cardano, right? Because as a stake pool operator, I'm kind of aware of both the technological limitations of the blockchain. I'm also aware of the opportunities on the blockchain. So by staking with the Goma Stakepool, you may have access to tokens. We were speaking about Ekival. By staking with the Goma Stakepool, you will have access to tokens which are launched by the Ekival team, right? So basically, we may involve other stake pools, but of course, the Goma stake pool will be among the first ones to be able to issue those tokens, and we can distribute them through the Goma stake pool.
Okay. So I give you my aid. I delegate my aid.
Yeah, you delegate.
I delegate it, even though I technically still hold it, right? Like
You
I
do.
still hold it, but I delegate it to you so that you can use it to get more validations through.
Yes.
Okay.
And when I get more validations, you also get more rewards.
Okay. I get more rewards.
Yes, you
And
get
that's
more
the
rewards.
investment part of it is
That's the investment
the
part of it.
rewards.
Good
Okay.
point. The reward you get currently for ADA is around 4% of your investment. And contrary to other type of investments where they're locked, when you spend, you might even delegate a wallet which is live. Even the one ADA you want to spend, even if you want to spend one ADA, two ADAs, you may still spend it. And it's going to be up and down. But when the validation happens, they take a snapshot at a given time. So that is the value we knowledge when you want to pass transactions. You may delegate 10,000 today and tomorrow spend 5,000. If the snapshot happened when it was 10,000, that's the weight we'll have received from you. If it happens tomorrow and it's only 5,000, that is the weight we receive from you. But on your end, you're spending your wallet the same way you can spend your debit card. You won't even realize this. You won't have anything to do in terms of changing your delegation.
Okay. So again, here's another thing that I thought was really interesting about Goma Stakepool. And that is the stake pool helps run, or I'm not really sure how to state it, but like the stake pool helps run a development training center.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So if I stake with you, part of, in a sense, what I'm investing in also is helping train more folks more students in DRC.
Yeah. And those students, for example, we have live sessions Saturdays for 10 weeks. And the idea is that given that they don't speak English, I'm teaching them in French. And through the stake pool, the fees, 2% of the rewards, it's not a lot, frankly. However, it does help. It helps both to maintain the stake pool, but also to kind of fund the students, because we give them only beverages, a little water here and there. Sometimes if it's a lady and she's kind of finishing late, we may give the transport to the lady to go home by taxi.
Thank goodness.
The guys will work at night. At least, to make things easier for everybody. So that is what those of his help with. And personally, also, it kind of motivates me to teach, because I don't get paid when I teach. But when I see that people support the stake pool and they give us that little refreshment, it kind of gives me also, it kind of helps me to push along and say, you know what, I'm going to keep the stake pool open. And again, the stake pool itself, it also allows people in Africa to kind of feel connected to the blockchain. Because if we do not have relays in Africa, if we do not have physical manifestations of the blockchain, they won't understand, they won't even believe you. But when you show them like a server and they see the lights going on and off, they know, oh, this is working. This is the Cardano blockchain. Like, what else can you tell them? Because nobody can actually see crypto without seeing a server running, right? It's like when you see these miners, the GPUs, when you see those racks, oh, this is a Bitcoin mine. Yes, but in our case in Cardano, when they see the server running, they know this is a Cardano mine. And Cardano is here. So they kind of trust you that you actually know what you're talking about, given that you're already running the stake pool, and people want to invest can also come and watch you manage the stake pool as a means to give them more confidence.
Well, and I also, what I like about the idea of having these like blockchain servers in Africa is like you said, it's connecting them like to the means of production.
Yeah.
And also when we talk about a lot of people are worried about climate, like the climate implications of or climate impact of
Mining.
of mining and stuff like that, and running all these servers. And so a lot of there's like a lot of focus on using renewables, and renewables take a lot of extractive mining, right? And so for me, again, it's like looking at that and it's like, okay, well, we always go into Africa and take the resources. So if we're going to be taking resources to run servers, my God, those servers should be in Africa. I mean, that's my thought. We
do have to put them there. It's an effort on our part. It's costlier. It's more demanding. Like as we speak now, I had to just got some RAM, some memory cards, which I had to find in Africa. I have somebody going to Congo on Sunday, and they will bring those ones in Congo. Myself, I may go in the future soon. But basically in Africa, yes, we also have mines in the DRC. Luckily, the Goma Stakepool runs on the solar panel. We got funded through Fund 7 to install the stake pool. Myself, I gave the pledge. However, most of the infrastructure, the solar panels were bought through Cardano funding, which is also helpful with Cardano Catalyst projects funded for learning institution. The stake pool is in a college, so students can see it. They know about Cardano, they learn about Cardano, and that's why they kind of join. And the school will be organizing the summit. Yeah, the school will be organizing the summit on the 19th and 20th of November. And that is a good opportunity. And also the stake pool, with the little funds we get, we set aside a little amount to also help some conservation effort in the Virunga National Park. And there's some gorillas that basically, some sanctuaries, some little orphans gorillas, like you can give some gifts and they give them like food. It's like a little zoo, but whenever they grow up, they release them in the wild. But when the sanctuary, whether they're sick or they've been orphaned, the Cardano stake pool can help out to give out a contribution to maintain those little poor animals.
Okay, see, now you just add it like on top of it. Like, well, I need to stake some ADA with Goma Stakepool. I'm just saying, But yeah, no, I'm so stoked, and I'm just gonna throw out, if you're, Shira wants to make a trip over to Congo. I'm just gonna throw that out there. So I hope I'm welcome in Goma.
You'll be welcome. You'll be welcome with your French. And by the way, about the French, you may not be the one to teach your child, but actually, if the child learns French, they may teach you even faster.
Trust me, I already told somebody, I was like, he knows way more French than I know. I got to figure out. That's why I'm trying to figure out a community. I think I found Haitians though. I'm like, hey, Haitians, do you guys let me in your community? I don't care. It's all I know. I'm trying my darndest. But yeah. So so here's my question: have we covered everything? Do you think that, in this short amount of time, that people need to understand a little bit about DeFi, and again, what DeFi means in terms of the promise of its impact to Africa and the African diaspora?
Yeah, I do. The only thing which we can add on is to avoid speculation. The blockchain, when people talk about blockchain, they talk about appreciation, but appreciation comes with depreciation as well, right? What goes up can go down. But when you think about the blockchain, think about the technology. We're still at the beginning of that technology. So if you teach kids, if you teach others the way I'm teaching others, if yourself you learn about the blockchain, you may be talking about a technology which in the future may surpass nation states, and they will become like large corporations. So when you know about those things that are coming up, you may be a member of one and benefit from the benefits that membership gives you through the decentralized organization, autonomous organization, DAOs, other means. So joining a blockchain, it's not about losing money or giving money. It's about learning a new technology. You may even join a blockchain without even putting any 1 cent. You can become a developer.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to also throw out something that I'm still starting on this. I just recently got this, that somebody in this interesting world of DeFi and Twitter, because I always point to Twitter people. You can learn a lot about projects. Somehow put this on my radar. So I got a copy.
Yes.
I'm working through this, and I feel like this whole thing with cryptocurrency is definitely connected. So we're learning more, and we're going to bring it to you as we learn it.
Thanks again. Thanks. And the youth, if you are young and you're out there, do learn. You have your time. Learn something new. As you're a bit older, but the younger ones may take advantage of this new technology.
I know, because if we, you know what, I am not a young buck, so if I can do it, everybody can do it.
Yeah, indeed.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thanks again,
Frédéric. We appreciate all of your time in explaining Ekival. Yeah. And also the Goma Stakepool with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Okay. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. And again, if you guys ever have questions, don't be shy about using the comments section. I usually tell you guys. But if you want to hit us up, you know where to find us. Talk to you later.
Take care. Bye.